Okay, here we are, episode 37, on the road, in the waves, and on the other side. My friends, it is me, it's Paul Carpenter, your host, and today we have Kent Axell, episode 37. I'm super excited about this one. Any moment now, he'll be joining in, and we'll be having a phenomenal episode. If you don't know who he is, which I'm sure you may not, and then again, you may. This is a mentalist, a hypnotist, a magician. He has not one but two Las Vegas performances at two different shows that he's performing in. It's an amazing show that's about to happen right now. I'm about to bring him on. I'm super excited to have him. Bringing on Kent to the stage. Kent, welcome to the show, my friend. How you doing?
Hello.
Yes, we're in. How you doing, man?
At long last. I'm doing great. How are you?
Yeah, so thankful that you're here and so thankful that you rescheduled. Please forgive me for going ill. Things that happen in my life. How are you doing today? And how is everything going?
So far, so good. It's been a quiet day. I mean, these are the first words I've spoken to another human being. I've just been having my coffee and late night last night.
That's good for you because you work at night and you have a thing going on, in your life. But let's start the episode. Kent Axell, who are you? Where are you from? What would you like to know about you? Fill us in. I want to know everything. Where were you born? Where are you from?
I'm from Maine. I was born in Maine. I lived there for the first 18 years of my life, and I studied musical theater in New York City, and stayed in New York for maybe about 13 years, and then moved to Vegas. Cut my teeth in corporate magic in New York, and then ended up in Vegas. I did some auditioning and some theatrical stuff, but magic really scratched that itch in the same way, and
did you and I ever meet did you and I ever meet when you were in New York during that period? When were you?
No, I don't.
Right?
No, I wasn't really part of the magic community at all for like a fairly long time.
Yeah, it seems there's another like set of magicians in the world that learn magic on their own, or go to a magic store, or read books, or find the magic community, but don't actually get into like IBM, International Brotherhood of Magicians, or Society of American Magicians, and never even know about that whole entire world that you can be involved in. And it's really cool.
Yeah.
So that was your route. What was I love to ask magicians is, the first thing is like, what was your inspiration to magic? What was your first thing in magic that got you like as a kid where you were wide-eyed, you were like, oh, that's cool. What was that first one for you?
Yeah, I guess it would have to be Copperfield. Yeah, it was to Copperfield. I think that's what got my interest first. But then when I saw Blaine doing it on such a smaller scale, but getting like similar results, that was really inspirational.
Yeah, for sure. It's the same thing for me. Copperfield was my introduction to magic as a kid. I'm 47, so when I was 37 years ago, he was at the peak of his existence.
Isn't that a statement? Isn't that something to say? Oh my goodness.
I mean, it was, that 10, 17-year period of his before Blaine came in and before they had that television competition where Blaine was doing ice, and then Copperfield had a special that was very short where he did Tornado of Fire on the same day, trying to compete with with David Blaine. And staying prevalent, and you can see that over the years he's done that with trying to stay prevalent. He's been trying to stay prevalent with with the magic that he's been doing in Vegas, the dinosaur and the UFO and trying to, keep a much more a vibe. It's young and fresh, right? Just understandable. You have to, as I was thinking in a lot of my podcasts with a lot of my guests, is that you have to build a brand and you have to be an artist, which means that you're evolving the brand. You're evolving you're not becoming stale if that's the case. Like what I've said is like you're either an artist or an artisan, and an artisan just makes the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. It doesn't really elevate, if you will, the form that they're creating, whereas an artist will always elevate the form. Even if they're making a cup, they will somehow or another make the cup different every time. In their iterations of who they are, like a Madonna is the way I look at this, or even Lady Gaga, where every iteration completely from left field. If you feel, almost it feels like that sometimes,
Yeah, it's really interesting the comment that you made about how a lot of Copperfield's material in the show right now, anyway, seems like it is inspired by youth. It's very fantastical. It's very, it's fantasy based. What's the? You ask a kid what their favorite dinosaur is, and you're gonna get a response.
Yeah, of course, right, exactly, and it's almost, in some ways, quite magical and beautiful to see somebody who is that old. No offense to his age, but somebody that is that old that is still playing with their childhood and doing it and on the most professional level possible. And there's something very powerful to that dream that we're seeing, even if it is, no offense again to his age, but even if it is the ending of that career, there's still something quite amazing that even at the end, he's still going, let's do UFOs and dinosaurs and a cat to my grandfather. Why not? Fuck it. Who cares? It's magic. Let's have fun. He's just playing almost. And it's beautiful.
Hey, so how does this thing work? Can I share this stream? Like, how do I do that?
So this is being streamed right now on Facebook profile, mine. Then also page, then also on Best Magic Videos, which is a group that I hold, which has 35,000 followers.
Oh,
then
cool.
On my LinkedIn, right? Then it's also on LinkedIn. It's also on Twitch live stream, and it's also on YouTube live.
Got it.
So it's streaming to all of those right now live. And then all of those platforms will have a embedded or a downloadable or a watchable on any one of those streams. So what I usually do is I throw out banners, like so I have like little banners that I have, like a ticker banner there, and I have this here.
I see.
So that that now people can go to, if you go to youtube.com/Paul David Carpenter, any one of your comments will come in here. Some of the Facebook pages, somehow or another, the comments don't come through. So if you just go there, or if you go to my fan page, for some reason the fan page works. I don't know.
Got it.
I don't know. Yeah, but I'm using StreamYard. And for those who've never seen StreamYard, their brand, do I still have their brand bubble up here? Yeah, there it is.
Isn't that the duck?
There's the StreamYard brand bubble in the corner. They're an awesome service. You pay $40-something a month, $45 a month, and you can stream live as many hours as you want. And you can upload, I believe, to about 8 different locations all at once, and you can have 10 guests all at once.
Nice.
So it's really cool. And you can also teach classes and charge, and have like a whole charging system for classes, and they have a whole back end. It's very cool. Great website. Nice. Very happy that I was sponsored recently by one of my followers and watchers, and she gave me some money, and I was like, I'm totally using it towards the show, and hence the building of the show, if you will. Is what I'm trying to do. Yeah. So it's good, man.
Okay, so let's get into some juice. What's the juice?
Well, yeah, let's get into. Well, I want to know more about you, if you don't mind. So we asked you who your first influence was, but what was your first magic trick that was the one that you took? Like most kids, it takes weeks and weeks before you get to buy it, but the person keeps showing it to you. That's usually the story, like, oh, show me the trick. Show me the trick. And the guy's like, man, I'm not going to teach it to you. No, I'm not going to teach it to you. Do you have one of those?
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm totally ready. Oh, it was Chris Angel?
No, no, that's funny. My uncle Kiffy.
Like, oh, that's a great story. Yeah.
My uncle Kiffy. Put yourself in my shoes. You're 9 years old. Your uncle Kiffy takes a coin and he gives it to you and he says, mark this. And you go, how? And you're 9. So naturally he takes out a fucking box cutter and hands it to you and says, with this. It's okay. Sharpies existed. I don't know what we were doing, but he handed me a box cutter to mark the coin. He was a tool guy. So scratch the coin in a particular spot that I would remember. He takes that coin, no finesse, no nothing, puts it in his pocket and immediately withdraws a matchbox rather, wrapped all up in rubber bands. He opens that box, opens the drawer. Inside is another matchbox, smaller, wrapped up in rubber bands. I open that one, and inside, I'm opening these. Inside that is a bag wrapped with a rubber band around the top. And I open that up, and inside that bag is that fucking coin. How?
Yeah, what a good one.
Shattering.
What a good one, dude. What a
I thought it was the tip of the iceberg, man. That was the whole iceberg. That was it. That's all he knew.
Oh.
But it was enough.
And that was the one. So now, did you spend an enormous amount of time to try and find that trick?
I just can't. I mean, eventually he taught it to me, but it was after I came back with 6 hours of material, the next family reunion. It wasn't all good.
Look, I studied 6 hours of this shit.
Yeah, mostly variations on the 21 card trick. Yeah, exactly.
That's so good.
Forgive me, I'm going to refill in my coffee here. Look, you guys like my Poe choice of mug?
Anyways, so is there a trick that you spent a ton of money or a ton of time on before you bought it? Is there one of those out there? One of those?
No, not really. Not really. I studied, books and it was mostly books at the start, to be honest. Because hold on, I'm trying to keep my cats inside. Well, there we go. Yeah, it was mostly books. At first, I don't necessarily value books more. Oh, you're frozen. You're frozen. Are you still there? Should we reconnect?
Situation. I don't know what that was or what happened. That was weird.
You good?
But it's okay.
Okay.
I'm okay. If you're okay, I'm okay. All right. Here we go.
Good.
Okay. So the question was, what was the first trick that you bought that was the trick that you were that maybe shown and then you went out and bought it?
I honestly don't remember because a lot of the study was in was just like from books and like stuff that you could do with a normal deck of cards, normal objects, things like that. Like that's the kind of stuff that really excited me. I didn't do a lot of purchasing of tricks when I was younger. I did hear somebody mention on one of your shows recently. It might have been Elaine, mentioned the poker chips, or maybe you mentioned it to him. But I do remember those from the black and white chips that you press against each other.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I remember
that.
Yeah.
That was the trick that got me. I think that was the story. I was telling the story. I used to go to this store, and the guy behind the counter was an amateur magician, and to sell things in his store, he would use magic as a way to garnish the interest of the people and then show them something, whatever. And my mom worked at the mall, and she didn't have enough money for a babysitter, so the mall was my babysitter, and I would just walk around the mall for hours on end as a kid. And my mom had a friend that worked at the movie theater who was the manager, so I used to get to go to see all the movies for free.
Yeah,
and that's what I did. It was crazy, man. It was a fun time. It was a weird time. The '80s, the '70s, and '80s. Different than today, obviously.
Yeah.
But, okay, so let's get into this. So, as you get older, did you ever have a regular job? Did you ever become like a regular person in the world and then look at that and go, oh no, I can't do that, I'm going to go back to magic? Or did you always think to yourself, I'm going to be a performer, I'm going to make this happen, here we go? I never had a job that wasn't. That's a lie, actually. I did do dishes when I was young at the local country club when I was back in Maine, and that was fun. Yeah. And I really I don't know. I'm very careful not to separate performers from regular people, because everyone is trying to make their way, and sure.
Yeah. So I it wasn't oh, this isn't for me. It was I was just really drawn to this particular kind of work, and I always had fun with it. And so when I was auditioning in New York, I've been very lucky. I've had a really, really great support system through my parents, and everyone around. My grandfather was highly supportive of the magic stuff. And so I had a really, really great skill set built up by the time I got to New York. So I worked in retail at FAO Schwartz selling magic kits for maybe 3 or 4 years.
Did you work with the redhead?
Oh my God, yes, but I've forgotten her name.
Yes, you did. You and I met, Kent. And I met when you worked at FAO Schwartz. I remember it now, almost immediately now. We didn't hang out or anything else. I was there to go see her, and I was there because of I was working at Phantasm at the time, and I believe that young lady at one point was either dating the owner of Phantasma, or she was working with oh my God, what's this magician's name? I do his split all the time. He's a magician, comedy magician from England. He had his own show in New York. It was an off-Broadway. It was one of the longest running off-Broadway.
Oh, Simon Lovell.
Simon Lovell. So she and Simon Lovell had been working together, and I believe that she was working in his show or something to that effect, or something like that. And that's how
this is ringing a bell.
Yeah, and that's how I met her. And because I was Simon Lovell's bitch boy for 2 years, and it was one of my favorite gigs to hang out with him, just to be with him and get to go to his bat cave in New York and get to see the real person behind the scenes. There's something really magical about that. Even when I got to do that with Harry Anderson for 3 months before Katrina, there's something magical about hanging out with somebody so famous. and getting to be with them when they're eating a sandwich or when they're just being their normal self, and then when they start recollecting on their old past and the things that they did and the stories that they tell you, and it's just like this very like, wow, you know for a fact, sir, you're one of the only people in the world that are getting this kind of, you know, back and forth, if you will, with that energy source. And that's dope. Like, there's something very dope about that. And not that it teaches you anything about performance or teaches you anything about magic. It just, it's something else. I don't
know, man. I don't know. I think that kind of thing is one of the better sources of inspiration and material. You know, if you get yourself involved with other people and other people's projects, like it teaches you way faster than any other source I can think of.
In that respect, yeah, I can't deny what you're saying, and you're completely right, and I correct myself. What I meant by that was like, the person doesn't sit down with you and you know, and teach you like the 8-king count or something.
Yeah, but who cares?
No, but you know, but I'm just saying, in that respect, you're not learning in that respect type of learning. There's a whole other set of learning, and which is the thing that I think that I'm trying to explain. It's kind of unexplainable. That's like this very beautiful process that happens when you get to be with those people. I feel it when I hang out with you. Even, you know, I've even said it to you. You know, there's a beauty to get to watch you. When I got to see you in Vegas, there's this very easy performance style that comes from you, and it's obvious that it's so many stage hours and so much performance because.
Thanks, man.
No, it's the difference between seeing a guy who picks up the guitar for the first time and tries to play Stevie Ray Vaughan and watching Stevie Ray Vaughan. There's a massive difference, right? There's no, and no matter how many times you look at it and go, God, that's so easy. I could do that.
Well, let's get tell you what, let's get, we could talk about that, but let's get a, I mean, I appreciate the kind words. Let's dive deep on something, you know, whatever it is.
Yeah, no, we're getting there. I still have an hour and a half with you, buddy.
You got an hour with me. You got an hour.
Oh, is it only an hour? I thought we were doing an hour and a half. Okay, so.
Well, we're doing an hour. No, well, it's now 12:30 almost.
Right, so I have an hour. You're leaving me at 1:30. Yes. So I still have an hour. Right. So an hour and a half altogether is what I meant. But yeah. So that gives me more than enough time to get through a lot of stuff with you.
Okay.
So because we're still growing, we're still getting to your point. So where was your first like real gig, like money gig? As a performer, even if it's young, like 15, 16, I don't care. But what was your first gig where you got paid like a stupid amount of money and you were like, wait, you mean I get paid this to do this?
Dude, one time for a 20-minute kids show, I got paid $30. But how old were you?
How old were you?
Like, I didn't know, but I was in New York already. I was like 20 or something like that. I don't remember exactly when, but I had no idea what I was getting into. None. I had no idea, but I was really happy to do it because I was already doing it for free. I started doing corporate work, and like parties and stuff, like before I didn't know any other magicians. I didn't know what the market value of that was. And there is no market value. I mean, there is none. You know, if somebody wants to charge $30 to do a show, that's awesome. They absolutely should. And then they should adjust if they feel like they can get more.
Yeah, this goes back to, other episodes I've talked about that, art is subjective in the value that you give to it. And there's people out there that, like David, what's his name? He teaches a whole entire course on how to do corporate magic. And he makes $2 point some odd million a year and only does like 10 shows a year. So he's charging $200,000 for him to come to your corporation and do his thing. And he's doing rope tricks, and he's not doing anything, but it's not about that. That's not what he's there for on some level. He's there for a completely different thing, which is to keep the business associations and the intrigue of that business in the mind of those people. Yes. And that's why he's getting paid $200,000. And that's a totally different thing. You know, that's just like the same thing that what's his name? Man, I always forget people. That's horrible. Joel Bauer. He teaches that with his passion of profit, or he even teaches that with his magicians at conventions and how. But we're having some weird things, technical weirdos here today. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. The gremlins are attacking.
Are you there?
I'm here.
Are
yes.
you back?
I will continue to say that I'm here.
Okay,
until we're
we're
connected
back.
again.
Okay.
There we go.
And so yeah, like I was saying about Joel Bauer and how he teaches how to go to a convention in your town. And even if the convention's on the first day, you walk in, you find a booth, talk to some people, you say, hey, let me show you how I can bring a crowd to your booth and get you more signatures than you've ever gotten before. And then you do it. And then right when they're really, you know, oh my God, at the hype of their thing, you go, okay, cool. You want me to come back? I'll do it again for the next couple of days. I charge this much. You charge $1,000 a day. It's $5,000 for the weekend or whatever for the week that they're there. And they're happy and you're happy and you perform 4 shows, 5, 6, 7 shows a day and boom. You know, so there's ways of making money depending on where you want to be. Like you said, you know, if somebody wants to charge $70 for a show and they think they can make more, get it.
Yeah. But I think the major point that I want to like drop into the magic community is like there is no inherent value, and it is way more than how you value yourself and how you value your show. It's way more than that. Like that seems self-evident to me. And even before I was, you know, lucky enough to be making good money and lucky enough to have these Vegas residencies, I sort of felt this way. Like whenever I see some like, normally it's club guys. Normally it's guys that are afraid of competition, who say things like, oh, you know, you're charging $200 a show, you got to charge more, you know, or $300 an hour for corporate magic is no good. It's like, actually, yeah, it's really good. It's not good compared to other corporate magicians, but it's really good. So
for that guy is what you're saying.
Yeah.
For that person,
yeah,
right?
Like, what are you going to do? Deny somebody $50 an hour to do fucking card tricks? It's like, that's insane. And
No,
now,
I
if I hold on, let me finish this point because it's important. I really do feel this way. If somebody like, you can encourage people to succeed, but if you tell people no, it's worth more than that, and it's like there's a big difference between encouraging people to succeed and chastising them for charging too little because you're afraid that they're going to undercut you in the market.
That's a totally different thing than I was, and I agree with you on that. That's the same thing as what I like to talk about. Like when I the analogy I like to say is there's enough street for the performers to do their thing.
Yeah, like, for sure.
There's another magician right down the street from me, and I'm doing magic. He shouldn't be there, dude. You should be more than okay with your show to not even have to worry about the guy down the street doing whatever the fuck he's doing, because he might not even be that good. He might not even whatever, blah, 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 blah. There are a million things that could, whatever. And so there should be no there. But what I'm talking about because I had this conversation earlier in another podcast, which was, I think it was Pat Sloan, and he was talking about Houston and how Houston doesn't really foster art. And I said, you know, if you look at Houston, it fosters great art, but it doesn't foster good distribution of that art. So there's a lot of people who come from Houston that are very well known, that are very famous, but they didn't become famous in Houston. They maybe gathered like you in New York or where were you? I'm sorry, where'd you say you were from? Upstate?
Maine and then New York. Yeah.
Right. But you were in Maine first, and you already were in school and you were doing like theater, and then you went to New York and studied even more theater, right? But you went to New York. That's my point, right? And it's the same thing with a lot of people from Houston. I don't know anybody other than Paul Wall, the rapper, that is an artist that came out of Houston. Like, they weren't discovered in Houston. And you could say that Beyonce was discovered in Houston, but it wasn't until she got to LA and New York that she blew up and people actually knew who she was, right?
It sounds like the concern is fame.
The concern is fostering good art and then having that art be able to be recognized as coming from that place, instead of having to leave that place to be recognized that you're from that place. Does that make sense?
I guess I don't really connect with with what you're saying, because I feel like at this point, if you drop me into any town center or any city center, really, I could probably make a successful career as a magician, because it's not really necessarily about that. Like, you maybe not as a stage magician, maybe not as a Houston might not have its own little Broadway in the same way that some other towns do. It might not foster that kind of performance, but
and that's all that I was saying. That sometimes what happens, for instance, this is the conversation that we were having, and I'll just try and break it down for you. Basically, I was saying that because Houston has such a small community of art fostering, that there's a very small amount of whatever you're looking for. And there's only so many corporate entertainment companies within that area that will buy from people. And so it's harder for, let's say, a stilt walker, not a magician, but a stilt walker or a face painter, a tarot card reader, a burlesque dancer, whatever, to get into that corporate world and be able to sell their thing, because the entry is to go through these companies. And then these companies, of course, are in a profit mode where they say, oh, well, we only pay $75 per hour for a magician.
Sure.
And so then what happens is it doesn't foster good, in my opinion, it doesn't foster good performers and good artists or people who are endeavoring to step up, because it's harder for them to do so. Unlike a magician or unlike a hypnotist or unlike a one-person act that is the stage style act. Like, I don't consider stilt walking a stage style. No offense. But you see what I'm saying? I mean, you could definitely turn it into a stilt walking.
I can imagine a circumstance where that would work. But no, it's hard.
Right, but I'm sure you could do it. There's people who have done the ladder act, which is a very famous, beautiful act, and it's a stage act. That's a stage act. So you could take stilt walking and turn it into a stage performance in some way, shape, or form. So, nonetheless, let's get back to you. But I love what you're saying, though. To go back to what you're saying, I do like having a different perspective upon that thing that I was saying, which is, that it doesn't foster. Maybe it does foster good art. That it's a good place for other people to practice and start and be able to. But then I feel as though the people who are corporate entertainers or corporate buyers are then getting kind of gypped on some level for what they believe they're buying. Right? Because maybe you're thinking you're going to get a good magician for $500 an hour, and you're only paying the guy $100 an hour or whatever it was, and so you're keeping that money for yourself as the production company that put it together, whatever. And so then you're not getting a guy who would be considered maybe a you or a me or somebody within that tier of quality at $1,000 or $500 for an hour.
Yeah.
And so this is what I mean by it doesn't foster good art in that respect.
Well,
but on the other hand, maybe it fosters the fostering of art.
I don't know if corporate magic is really. I mean, I don't know. Magic is obviously maybe an art, maybe a craft. I don't know. That's a silly discussion. But I mean, really, I don't know if there's anything that could justify. I don't know if there's any level of magical entertainment that could justify, the types of corporate prices people normally get. Because honestly, you're not paying for the magic. Like when I do a corporate gig in Las Vegas, and oftentimes these are B2B type gigs, and so they're the type of thing where somebody, a corporation or a company is putting on a mixer so that other companies at the convention can come and visit them at the mixer. So ultimately, this is a networking event, and the reason that they have you there is because is number one, because they want something to entertain people, and once you've convinced them you can do that, they're just trying to solve the problem. They're just trying to solve the problem to hire you. So the money, they have a tremendous amount of budget for this kind of thing, and what they really want. I mean, okay, there's so many facets to this, but just to finish the point that I was just making is like they're paying for you to connect people in that room so that you can give them something to talk about, right? And you can do great magic. I would probably rather have somebody who did kind of mediocre magic but had a lot of charisma and a lot of ability to connect people than somebody who did really great magic but had no interpersonal relations with interpersonal skills. And then in terms of budget, it's like these businesses, because this is a business expense and they can write you off, you can charge basically whatever within reason, but you can charge whatever you want. And they're going to be able to pay you that. Now imagine that you're Susan in accounting, and you are given the task, the impossible, silly, stupid task of finding a magician for your party. That's insane. I'm not equipped for that. What do I do?
I mean,
go on the internet, I guess.
Yes.
And somebody,
I guess, go on the internet and look, and you can go to.
And I got one guy who's charging $600 for the event. Okay, that kind of seems like a lot for card tricks. And then I got some guy who's charging $3,500 for the event. That's for 2 hours? What's the market value? Okay, now I got a lot of messages about people that are charging $2,000. Okay. But the $3,500 guy called me, and I talked to him for a minute. He seems to understand what I need. And so is it really worth it for me when I'm using other people's money that's going to end up as a tax write-off to really do this game? Is it worth $1,500 in savings potentially $3,000 in savings of the company's money that's going to be a tax write-off anyway? Is it worth that for me to keep doing this stupid search? No, not really. I like that first guy. Like, he seems okay.
Which is again, why most of those people will just go to a company that can do everything for them. Then they can just write off the time.
Yeah.
They don't. I don't have to do anything. You're going to find me the face painter, the tarot card reader, the this, the that, the other. The list of things that I was just sent to in my office that I don't know where to find anyways, and you're the company that does that, and all I have to do is pay you a lump sum.
Oh yeah, you're talking about an entertainment company? Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you an event planning company is great.
Right.
You'll take a little hit.
Situation.
But, yeah.
Well,
like, oh yeah, they do everything.
Right, but then at times they won't want to pay your fee in any way, shape, or form because they will once again find somebody who will do it for $75 or
But
$100.
that's totally fine. That's totally fine for me. I'm so against this concept of being in competition with other entertainers. I mean, look, maybe there's a sense in which, like, I'm not doing this pseudo spiritual thing where it's like you're not in competition with anybody but yourself, because ultimately we are. But there's this idea that you actually need to be afraid of other people taking your gigs. And I'm in Las Vegas. I don't think I have interacted with a single person who has who I've taken a gig from or who has taken a gig from me. I don't like it's so, and a lot of the gigs that I have are opportunities that were created by me in conversation with people. Like, I don't know. I mean, yeah, if you go on Gig Salad or Gig Master, you're up against like 4 other people for sure, but they're anonymous. And like, I don't know, like I'm sure people are charging less than me, but I don't get priced out. Now, why is that?
Yeah, well, I don't think that that's what we're talking about. It's not necessarily like I have my value, that's my price. No, what I'm saying is it goes back to that I agree with. That I totally agree with. That's the street profit idea concept that we were talking about, that there's enough people on the street, there's enough places on the street for you to perform. That's not what I'm saying. Yeah. What I'm saying is when a company comes into the street and says, we own these 5 spots and 10 spots, and and you can only make $75 at this spot, and that's all you're going to make here. You are very much, as an entertainer, going to leave that area and go somewhere else where you can make more money. So then that makes it that the people that do entertain are not necessarily always, but more than not at the level of people that the people who are paying the money think that they are getting. And that's
100%.
That's
to me, that sounds like something that balances itself out in a marketplace. So like if you're charging, like, ultimately your fee, since we got onto this topic, which is good. I like it when we get onto a topic and go a little deeper into one topic, because that feels more valuable to people who are listening. Ultimately, your price, your fee for doing magic tricks, all right? And let's not forget that's what we're doing. Your fee for doing magic tricks is going to be based on the supply of your time and the demand on your time. So if you can only get $75 per event because you're working with 50 different event companies and they all book you and your calendar gets filled out, there's 2 things that you can do to increase your revenue. You can, once your calendar is completely full, the first thing is you ask them for more money. Now, let's say they don't have the money to give you. That's totally fine. They don't have the money. They don't have more money to give you. So you now, instead of charging $75 for an event, you charge $100 for an event. Now, you got to keep in mind that your average quinceañera might not have $1,500 for David Copperfield. Like, it's not how good. It's not only how good you are. It's who you're working for. So as you get better and better, as you get better at your craft, you're going to find yourself in a situation where you're like, okay, well, my calendar's full, so I'm going to go ahead and charge $100 for an event now, and I'll drop off some entertainment companies for sure. Some will lose me. Some will lose me because they can't afford it, and that's okay. That'll free up my time to pursue higher level companies, and then you do that again. You keep doing that, and you keep raising your price until you find something that seems like a market value for yourself. And when your calendar's filled up, you do it again.
Right.
Simple.
I agree. And that's a great way to look at it.
It's simple in premise. It's not simple necessarily in execution. But if anyone needs any help with that kind of thing, like in their local area, like this sort of step by step, they can please reach out to me. Or if you have a specific question, because I'm talking very vaguely, go ahead and put it in the comments, and Paul will ask.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, and that's true. Let's do a little half break real quick. Ladies and gentlemen, this is On the Road, in the Waves, on the Other Side with Paul Carpenter. My guest today is the amazing Kent Axell. We are here together hanging out and talk about his life and his journey as a magician. So at this point, you're making $50 a show. You're 20 years old.
Oh, yeah.
You're in New York. You don't know any better. What comes across to you? Is it a mentor? Is it something that you did that you were like, hey, wait a second, I can make more money here, and so now I'm going to start charging this much money? And how did that go for you? Like, what was that process?
Well, it was a lot like what I just described. You know, it was a lot like what I just described. But to be perfectly honest, like, I floated for a long time in New York. I mean, I was doing my thing, living my life, but I had a really good support system, for better or for worse, actually. Sometimes I think it might have been for worse because I felt myself getting a little complacent, you know, but there were better and worse times for corporate magic. And I was doing a lot of the Christmas parties, and like internal holiday parties. And that's the big difference I was talking about from before. When they're doing a networking event off of a conference like B2B, where it's this company is trying to impress that company, their budgets for those events tend to be way bigger, because there's a big difference between the potential for signing a $10 million contract with somebody for a year and the potential for making sure that your cashiers have been happy at their Christmas party. And that's however you view that, you know, that is a big difference in as a company's willing to spend money on entertainment, you know. So the budgets for the parties that I'm doing in Vegas now tend to be bigger. But that was part of it. That's part of the clientele thing that I was talking about before, right? So as I'm sort of just like slowly learning and sponging up a bunch of magic information and trying to, I worked with a magic club in New York for a long time, and did shows in New York for a long time with them, and that's a different story. But as I'm improving my skills around the New York area, I'm in a market of these corporate events that have a slightly less budget. I noticed actually that bar mitzvahs tended to reject higher numbers less than the corporate clients that I was doing. So I started doing bar mitzvahs for a while. And then there were a couple of gigs that I had in Vegas, I believe before I even moved here, that were worth flying out for. And I this might be true, or I might have just lined some up after the move, because the move wasn't for the gigs. The move was for just a change of pace. But yeah, I mean, it was a really, really organic growth for me. There was no impetus necessarily. It's not really, the growth in magic isn't that interesting, to be honest. Some of the stuff that's happened along the way is, but like, you know, that magic club, some of your viewers might have come and visited Magnets. We called ourselves Magnets in New York. That was really fun. We put on a show called A Taste of Magic, a bit of a precursor to to Todd Robbins' Speakeasy Magic, where we did a dinner, a host, and different magicians at the table between every course, which was very cool.
Very cool. Yeah, that's a very cool. I like that a lot.
It was amazing. It was amazing. Very fond memories of that.
What was your like, while you were in New York? What was your thing? You're like, hey, that's it. I want to go to Vegas, and I want to try this out in Vegas, and getting you to the place kind of where you are now. Like, it must have taken you some time. You didn't just show up in Vegas and all of a sudden you had a residency. So, like, you know, it must have taken.
Oh, well, the residencies were 100% lucky. I don't, you know, no one. I want to be really careful that people don't end up like being down on themselves for not having a Vegas residency, nonetheless, too, because like those are so like like all of this stuff got fallen into in one way or another. So to cover those topics, the move to Vegas, the real impetus for the move to Vegas.
Yeah. Let's start off with that. Yeah, like how did you what happened? And granted, you said they're lucky, but what was the journey from that to where you are? Yeah. So why did you?
I'll tell you guys. I'll tell you the story, but it's brief. But those kinds of stories are really useful for people, I think, in terms of like what they can garner from them on an individual basis. Almost better than like a lesson sometimes. It's weird how that works. But anyway, so the impetus to move to Vegas was honestly my girlfriend at the time. It was Stacy Wieland, and some of you will know her from her Stacy's Secret Circus, which is a show that she's doing in Vegas now, which is really taken off. She's killing it over there. I'm really, really proud of her. We were in New York at the time, and honestly, we needed a change of pace. I would love to say that it was like my decision to move to Vegas. It really wasn't. I was going along with what she wanted to do. I thought Vegas would be a really cool opportunity. Like I wasn't against the idea for sure, but had she not suggested it, I might still be in New York. And I'm really thankful for that decision because that was a really, really great move. The shows that, I mean, we have since broken up, obviously. The shows that I have come into now are well, I mean, since being in Vegas now, of course. Oh, hey, hold on, who's this?
Says, good afternoon, Kings. Glad to see the show Double Down. It's neat to get more insight on the business mind of another magician. Thank you for sharing.
Cool. All right, that's great. That's great, guys. More of that, please. If there's more people here, like, communicate with us. Jesus, I'm so fucking boring. Like, I want you guys to like give me some props.
You're not boring at all, man. Not at all. This is great. I'm enjoying the hell out of it. Okay, cool. so you moved to
anyway,
Vegas.
Yeah, moved to Vegas with Stacy into this house, and we were trying to make our way here, and eventually, like, I discovered like the difference between those different types of corporate events, and so that became a little financially, things became a little easier for me, especially. I mean, pre-pandemic, I was starting, and then all the routes got collapsed, during pandemic. But then I was struggling during.
What did you do for survival during the pandemic?
Oh man, so I was scraping by. Just barely. I was doing online consultations for other people's Zoom shows because I hated doing Zoom shows. Shout out to Adam Stone and Karush. Those guys were really, really pivotal in keeping me on a weekly like mind meld for improving their own stuff because they were doing Zoom shows like crazy. And a couple other students during the pandemic. Shout out to Justin if you're watching. They kept me on my toes a little bit. I refused to take benefits just off of a stupid principle thing. You guys, I'm an anarchist, and it's not my money. It's not my money. So that's the short and long of it. So after the pandemic, I was kind of barely scraping by through that, but events started to open up again, and my goodness, everyone wanted to come to Vegas, didn't they? So a lot of those corporate events started up again.
Yeah, CES, and then from CES, that was it.
Yeah, and then it just kind of snowballed from there, and I'm still on that thing, still on that grind of. Do as many things as you can for your time, and then increase the value, increase the buy.
Right. So then, as you're doing gigs, you're doing corporate work. what leads you into meeting the owner of Prohibition and which is at Mandalay Bay, which is your residency now, one of. But
Well,
how did that start, and how did you end up becoming? I mean, it's so cool, by the way, to be walking through Mandalay Bay, right? Then as you're going up these stairs, there's this image video of you playing. And it's just very cool. It's like, yo, dude, that's so,
dude.
like, I'm so proud of him. Like, I was so proud of you. You just to see even that, you know, being played. And so how did that come to be? What?
It's the dream, man. It's the dream. I'll give you the very shorthand version of all of this stuff. So first, coming out of pandemic, one of the things that helped me survive in the last bits of the pandemic, actually, I was saying I was doing Zoom consultations, and you know, I primarily was for the first sort of half of the pandemic. But the second half, a friend of mine that I met in the magic community in Vegas, Tyus Friends, he was at the time he was Banachek's manager, and they pulled me in because Banachek was getting the show at the Stratosphere. He currently has the Mind Game show over at the Stratosphere. Yeah, and they gave me and again, this is because, like, I don't know, I'm a good dude. Maybe I've tricked people into thinking I'm responsible. Whatever, I don't know. I'm fun. I really don't know. I don't know why they called me, but they called me to come and do to help with Banachek's show. So I effectively ended up as stage manager for Banachek. We would do some notes and stuff like that. We would do you know, we would talk about the show, and effectively the real job was stage managing at Banachek. And from there, I was able to sort of get a foundation back through the pandemic. You know, I mean, a steady income was so important, and that was so good to have. That kind of, I would say that probably saved me at the end of the pandemic. Like that started me going, you know, increasing income again and having something steady, which was nice. Then after Banachek, during Banachek, I found myself seeing these ads for this place called Lost Spirits Distillery, and it looked like this absolutely magical, haunting place, and it is. Please visit when you're in the city. I learned that a friend of mine was working there, Will Bradshaw. And so I contacted Will and found out if I could get in contact with the owners or whoever hired, because it looked like they did magic or looked like they did circus there generally. And I came to them and said, guys, you got to do a seance here. Like, it's called Lost Spirits, and you don't have anything ghosty. Like, that's silly. That's a crime. And they said, it's not really our style. And I said, all right, that's fine. But I showed them some magic, some mind reading. And actually, this was really cool. Basically, what they are at Lost Spirits is a distillery tour with a self-guided, immersive tour where you've got a little passport and it's got 4 punch holes on it, and you find your 4 tastings, your 4 rum tastings that they make in-house. And as you're searching for these rum tastings, you will come across these different stages with these different circus acts that are happening on the stages. And so it's this whole, like, really cool experience. And at the time when I first went, they actually had 5 rum tastings. And so I designed some tarot cards that were like high arcana tarot cards based around their 5 rum tastings. So, like, they had a 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, for instance. And so, and they did that in their submarine. Yes, there was a submarine in Lost Spirits. And so I made a card for that called the Kraken, you know? And so on the back of those cards were all their branding, but there were also markings. They had a cherry rum there, and that was in their Dorian Gray bar. So I made a card for that called the Dark Host, and it was an image of Dorian Gray. And all of the cards on the back of these 5 major arcana that I created were markings for which card we were looking at. Now, they didn't know, and it was all their branding and stuff. So I had a deck of tarot cards for them, took out the 5 major arcana, and basically did Ben Seidman's Oracle effect on them with these 5 major arcana. That, and at the end, I was able to say, oh, by the way, these are representative of your 5 drinks. Here's this, here's this, here's this, here's this, and here's this. And it was really cool for them, and basically got me into the space. Yeah, the old one. They were already hooked for the magic. They loved the magic, but then they were like, oh man, and they basically hired me on the spot.
Wow.
But just to do mind reading, just to do magic and mind reading at the bar and on the stages. And then after that was another like good source of income. And this is getting involved in other people's stuff, getting involved in bigger projects. So important. We can talk about that in a minute if you want, but basically so important. And
getting to see the level of preparedness, getting to see the lighting, getting to see the sound, getting to see the rehearsal, getting to see the back end, all of it really does help you put together a better show.
Well, it's all educational. But then what happens is this, like, it's all educational and prepares you for when somebody else wants to help you do your thing. Because I left out a pretty big part of my life here. I have a 9-inch scar on the back of my head, but we'll talk about that in a sec. There's so much. Anyway, so during Lost Spirits, I was planning a tour with my touring stage show, which is called the Mind Reader. I have one of them called the Mind Reader, and that I first performed in 2022 in May in Maine, in a theater that had been run down and closed for over 50 years. And oh, beautiful! I had some conversations with you prior to doing that show. You had some great ideas for me. But anyway, so I was planning a tour, and they at Lost Spirits came to me and said, hey, you know what? We heard that you're going to be gone because you're going to be on this tour. We just decided recently that a seance is actually our style. And I I was like, oh, okay.
Oh,
so
really? That's
yeah,
so funny. So,
shoot some messages, effectively cancel my the tour so that I could stick around and work on this seance with them.
Wow.
And while I'm doing that, so now we have the seance at Lost Spirits, and that's like the first bit, the first show, the first residency that we're talking about. So while I'm doing that,
right.
So while I'm working on the seance, there's this show in town called The Magician's Study, and you probably have heard of this. No? Okay, well, if you've seen, it's possible that you've heard of it. If you've seen if you've been in Vegas and you've seen ads for a show with this guy with a like polygonal like rabbit head on, right? It's called The Magician's Study, and it's this super secretive thing, and it was in this location in this 1923 speakeasy, and it was doing incredibly well, like so well, and MGM picked it up, and they.
Was Brett Loudermilk in that show?
No.
No. Okay, he was in a different one that was in Vegas or something like that for a minute.
Yeah.
Okay,
but
I thought
yes.
it was
So one of the casinos picked it up, and basically moved it, and so the space was empty. And it was this 1923 speakeasy. And so this guy then came back. The owner of the bar, the owner of the space rather, he went out to, of all places, my man, Gig Salad. Went to. That's how he found me. He didn't find me in Lost Spirits doing the seance. He didn't find me doing any kind of public show. He went to Gig Salad. Gig Salad.
Wow.
He contacted me. He said, I'm the owner of the 1923 speakeasy, and I'm looking for somebody to to do a show in there. And I mean, there's details. There's details like, you know, this is not straight A to B, getting from that point into the space, but and there's a lot of like, there's a little bit of runaround that we did, but the long and short of it is now we've got this wonderful ghost story show inside the space where the Magician's Study used to be, and now the Magician's Study is off somewhere else, being super successful and secretive and fun, and we're building up ghost stories in Mandalay Bay.
Wow.
So those things are those.
Wow.
So everything is kind of connected, and also a bit disconnected, because the Seance and 1923 are ultimately, like, they're not connected. They're not the same show. Did I lose you? I might have lost him. I am not sure if you guys still see me. I don't know how this works.
Sorry about that, Ken. Yeah.
No worries.
Yeah,
no worries. No worries. So, so swinging back on this thing, which I think is really important, like especially for any young magicians that are listening, in the spirit of the season, do you have a favorite ghost story? Do you have a personal paranormal experience? That's a great question.
We'll come back to it. We'll come back to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll come back to it in a second. Yeah, go ahead and say what you were saying.
So, this is one of the biggest possible things that I can recommend to anyone who's like starting off in this thing. Like when I started off in magic, I kind of knew what I wanted to do, like big stage show, or a big stage, especially when I was doing mentalism, because I'm like, oh, it's possible to do a big stage show. Like, I don't know, there's more to it, because you need all the big props, you need it to feel grand, but it's possible to do these effects that are really big with little bits of paper. You know, I mean, it's really great, or even less than that sometimes. Yeah. I mean, way more than that sometimes. I mean, but still, like,
series, yeah, I was going to say the series from Max Maven called Nothing, which, you know, is a great series.
Yeah.
You know, but literally some envelopes and some paper, and you can do. Yeah. You know.
But well, that series, if I have it right, it's not necessarily that you don't need things to do your tricks. It's that the concept was you get dropped off at the gig the day of or the day before, or you have a couple of hours, but they lost your luggage, so you go to the pharmacy, and you can get the whole show from the pharmacy.
Right, from like a Walgreens or even like a whatever, and you can do your entire show with basically almost nothing. Yeah, and
if I remember correctly, like,
I've used it so many times in my life.
Yeah, it was good stuff. But anyway, so it was a good. Yeah, but sort of finish off that point. The idea for me was always to do sort of larger stage shows, and it's very hard to see point A to B to C to D, like, it's very hard to see that. And some people can see that, and I kind of could, but kind of couldn't. And when I did the first, like, big successful stage show that I did was the one in that theater that I was talking with you about, because we did a good job of advertising, but context was everything. Everyone in town was very excited for that theater to have something happening in it. That was the first ticketed event in that theater for over 53 years. So the idea that I was able to put on a show in there and have it successful has nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with me. There are a lot of people out there that will do better shows. But I happened to message the director of the organization that was keeping that theater from being bulldozed, and hit her at just the right time. And when I say happened to, I say that because it wasn't strategic. I wasn't like, okay, November is the time to message, and just whatever. I just messaged her at the right time, and I was like, listen, I can't compete with the Chamber of Commerce. I can't compete with the funding, but, like, what we can do is put on something in here that allows people to start seeing themselves in the space. You know, we're going to make X amount of money, and maybe that's for a spotlight, or maybe that's to replace this row of chairs, or maybe that's to put beams underneath the stage to support it so it doesn't collapse. You know, whatever it is, people can begin to see themselves in the space and see themselves entering the space, and they bought it. They liked the idea, and they were like, yeah, let's do something. And so the fact that, you know, 350 people showed up and we had to send a bunch of people away at the doors is nothing to do with me. Zero things. Now, I have a couple of good pictures and good advertisements, and like, I'm from Las Vegas, and all of that is cool, and all of that is useful and probably necessary. But all of that is also magicians. I'm gonna stop powdering your balls. Like, this is like, this is it. All of that shit that I just said is easy. It's easy. If you get the right opportunity, being prepared for that opportunity is very easy. Get yourself a one sheet. Get yourself some good photos. Right? All of that is easy. Yeah. What's hard is surviving until you get the opportunity. And like, you know, and actually, so the lovely, amazing, wonderful Holly England, who I'm dating now, is currently offering her services to help you create one sheets for yourself, because she has worked with the illusionists, and she has worked with, she's currently in Champions of Magic, being an international superstar, and she's actually just arrived today in Nashville to do Nashville House of Cards. She is incredibly good at knowing whether or not something's going to sell.
I'd also like to add in that she was not a magician 3 years ago. Correct. She was a dancer. She had worked with magicians in shows where she was a box girl. She had been in the magic world, but was never a performer. And may I add, and I'm not trying to put down any other female magicians out there, for somebody who's only been in the business for 2 years, she's easily in the top 5 of female magicians that are working today. And that comes back to the episode I just had a moment ago, which is there's 2 words, show and business. And the one that you need to pay attention to is the one that's bigger. And Holly, and I'm not trying to blow smoke up her ass or any of that stuff, it is apparent in who she is today, period. From nobody to where she is now, Champions of Magic, getting on Illusionist, traveling around the world, getting to be on a tour, and not just one tour of theirs, but I think 3 or 4 of their tours. There is something to be said to that. Not only the work ethic, but the ability to do the work, the ability to perform, the ability to create the back end of the business, i.e. the one sheets that she's made. And that's just one of the aspects of things that you need, right? You know, but yes, I believe that. Yeah. I think personally, and this was something I don't think I've ever mentioned it to you, but I think that you two should do a evergreen webinar that you charge nothing for, almost nothing for. You know, $25, $50, right? Something cheap, but the 2 of you on camera. With a whiteboard, and you guys just shoot off all your information that you have, like the good stuff, you know, and then make small snippet videos, and then even go off and make extra small snippet 1-minute videos, and then push that out to the community. There's nobody that can take. This is something that I love as of recently that's happened in my life. So I go around and I make Google reviews, and I did this just recently for you, and I'm doing it in the midst of us talking. I'm still waiting for photos and videos from you, but that's not the point.
Right. Yeah.
And I just did it the other day. Two days ago, I went to a bubble tea place. Right. Small, out of the way, not a lot of business, but cute as hell when I went in. the best service ever, small Asian family, the cutest, a woman with her own little baby, and everything they make in house. They make these all these cheesecakes, all these different types, like a matcha cheesecake, green tea cheesecake, and just amazing quality stuff, right? So I'm like, this is awesome. I'm going to do a review on you guys. So I do the whole thing, and before I leave the store, I had 10 views.
Nice.
Now, all right. Now, a week later, I told them I'm going to come back a week later just to show you what I've done for you. Not asking for any money, not asking for any kind of anything, right? But there's this feeling in me that because of the show and this podcast concept, I had one of my guests. He's from Houston, Texas. His name's Jay Reckless. And man, let me tell you, proud of somebody. This kid in 70-something episodes was picked up by one of the broadcasting channels in Houston.
Really?
And bro, I mean, that's not kind of big. That's massive in my book.
Yeah.
Like, as far as like, you mean you did 70-something episodes and some like major network is saying, yo, we want to broadcast your podcast on our network from now on. Here, go. Like, I'd be blown away if CBS or NBC or ABC or any of them came to me and were like, hey, we want, your podcast. I would be flipping out,
dude.
Bro. So for him to have that in such a short time is not only a blessing, but it's mind blowing, right? So my point here is that one of the things that he did was he would take his podcast and go to a restaurant and spend an hour and a half at location experiencing the location. And then I was like, whoa, what if I do that with my Google reviews, which are getting all of these like massive hits? And when I say massive hits, if I show you my photos, it's like 3.5 million, 300,000, 100,000, and it's at different locations. It's not just one place that gets the hits. It's every time I post now. And I can't explain it. I don't know what it is. I think it's because if you are on Google Maps and you go to view that company, because I'm a local guide, which means I've spent a lot of time or I have a lot of points, and that points comes from one picture that I had like 3.5 million views on. And so all of a sudden I went from like a Google 1, 2, a nobody to like all of a sudden, oh, wow, you're a local guide. So now your pictures are posted first on somebody's review. So what that mean? Anytime somebody searches whatever, the first photos they see are mine, I get points. Right. And that's kind of what's happening. Yeah.
Yeah. So well, let me swing. Well, first of all, I mean, that's an example. The internet is so amazing. Like that's an example of like how you can take, and I mean, like you said, you don't actually know exactly what the formula is, but you've got a couple of points, right? You got some guidelines that people can follow, and it's possible that they can follow all of those guidelines and not have 10 million views on their pictures, but it makes it much more likely. So there we go. Okay, he's back.
So one of the things hold on. Let me just because hold on. So one of the things that made that photo really popular was it's a business that's on a major like road on two major crossroads in Houston, and it's a very well-known place for people to go eat. And I took a picture of the name of the company in a weird angle that gave a cool look that showed just the name of the company, from the outside sign, if you will. And that's the picture that just right. So this is the thing. Now, Jay charges people to be on his podcast. Obviously, I don't. I'm just like, my whole concept here is build content, build content, build content. If I can do 365 podcasts with 365 people, and they're all different people, that's massive to somebody later in life or in the future when I keep going doing this and making a different podcast every day. That's for somebody who is an advertiser to know that there's going to be a different community, a different group, a different something every single day. That's easily worth $150 a day, which is all I'm charging.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So even if the views aren't that much, it doesn't matter because there's later views that are also connected to that person. And the ability or spontaneity of any one of those people or any one of these podcasts to take off. And then that $150 is menial for the year or for the day, over $50,000 for 1 year. So that's that's the ideology behind why I believe somebody would want to sponsor this. And then the other side of it is once I do get good sponsorship and 5 people in, that's the start of the ad campaign and the PR campaign and all the other stuff that starts, hey, I'm doing a podcast 365 days out of the year. I'm sponsored by these people and I'm doing one every single day. And here's some of my major guests strewn out throughout the year that we already have placed in front of us, that so on and so forth. And if you want to be a guest, guess what? You can be too. So now it's like this very cool podcast where these really famous people are on it, but guess what? So can anybody else be on it. That was so good, by the way. It paused on your face like in this really weird way. And it was so perfect. But I was like, and anybody can be on it. That should totally be a meme.
Even doofus is like this, yeah. So let me, if you don't mind, let me swing back to my point, because anyone that's had a conversation with me knows that I kind of spiral a bit. Like, I like to focus, but also at the same time, we're hitting so many different branches that, because without a little guidance, I kind of have to pull myself back. The point was that I actually never made. Yeah, for the newer magicians, the point was get yourself in order, obviously. Get the simple stuff done, which is like photos, one sheets. A website sounds daunting, but just do it. Do an Instagram page if you don't want to do a website. Do something. Do something that when somebody looks at you, it proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that you do what you say you do. That's it. That's the starting place. Second thing is get yourself involved in other people's projects. Because when you're involved in other people's projects, it comes with a certain level of clout. Even though I was just stage manager at Vanacek, all of a sudden now that has something, that does something. And that was a lucky thing for me. So that was a big hit, right? Because I knew somebody that got me into that. So know people. One of the ways you know people is by getting involved in other people's projects. If you're delivering coffee at the local magic show, it doesn't matter. That's how you get to know people.
Be a nice guy, Kent.
Be a nice guy.
And you're a nice guy. And you're also a hell of a performer. So there's you can't.
Thank you.
You can't walk into town, be a dickhead, and be a shitty performer and think you're going to get to work for Vanacek. So there is.
Oh, no, of course not. All of these things are prerequisites. All of the like having your shit together and not being an asshole. Obviously, those are prerequisites. But you can have your shit together and not be an asshole, and also not have any idea what to do with yourself because you're trying to do a Copperfield style show right away, and it's not making any sense to you. Like, why can't I do this? And it's like, well, because the 3 bigger shows that I've done, I'm just going to chalk it down to 3, which is Seance, Ghost Story, and the Mind Reader, which is the touring one. The first instance of Mind Reader, which is the success prover, was done at the good graces of other people. And so is Ghost Stories, and so is the Seance. All of those things are at the good grace of other people because they trusted me.
But it's because you're a good person and because you're a good performer. I'll keep going back to that because I know that that's what it is as well.
Those are prerequisites.
Well, yeah, I know that they're prerequisites, but it's the foundation, right? And it matters a lot because
Yeah, it does matter a lot.
anybody else who would have done it might not have had the same success because they didn't understand those two things.
Yes, those are prerequisites, and there is no lack of information on how to be a good performer in the magic world. But just think of it this way. You've been doing gigs a long time. Are you more likely to see an incredible performer who doesn't really an incredible performer or an incredible networker who's going to make more money normally? Like a mediocre performer who's incredible at networking,
the networker.
Yeah, for sure. And that's where the don't be an asshole part comes in, because incredible networkers tend not to be assholes.
Right.
But
right.
You know, and so yes, be a good performer and also don't be an asshole, and also but those are prerequisites. There's no lack of information about that kind of stuff on, I'm sure, your podcast or on the internet. You know, there's a great YouTube channel here called whose bases his show out of Vegas, actually, called Charisma on Command. I would absolutely look into that. That's a wonderful source for anyone who's looking. Charisma on Command, great YouTube channel. And you know, that kind of stuff, like that's I mean, I hate to sound cliche, and I can get into the details with people if they want to message me personally, but that kind of stuff makes you a better performer. You know, I'd much rather watch somebody who spent 100 hours on Charisma on Command do the 21 card trick than watch somebody who has spent 100 hours on 52 cards, but is, you know, in their own bubble, you know, not able to interact, you know. I don't know. Anyway, so the only reason I say get involved in other people's projects is because that's a fast way in my mind to build your network as a performer. And I can give another 10 minutes if you want to go a little longer, or if anyone's watching, they can do questions.
I know you have to go. I was just going to do that right now. What I was going to ask you is is your website kentaxell.com?
Yeah, KENTAXELL.com. And I need to update it drastically. It looks good, but it's missing both Ghost Stories and the Seance, which is mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, I don't know why you would do that, especially since those are the two things that you're doing that are promoting you the most. So I would hang up with me and go do that right now.
Oh, also, being involved in other people's projects I was involved in Lost Spirits just as a mentalist, as a performer for the longest time, but it allows you this wonderful, not only clout for your private and corporate gigs, which it does, oh yeah, I work over here at this thing, you know, it's massive clout. And I will say from experience, there's a guy at Lost Spirits who is kind of an older hat performer, and I don't want to say his name because I don't want to necessarily call him out, because I disagreed with him so much on this. He did not promote Lost Spirits, and he did not promote himself as working at Lost Spirits because he wanted his other clients and his other gigs to think he was available. And my goodness, I cannot think of a worse thing. I
don't understand that personally. So did I do that correctly? KentXL.com right there?
That's right. Yeah. So like I said, I do have another 10 minutes, so let's aim for another 5.
I myself am the kind of person that if I get any kind of connection to anything, I'm like, yo, dude, let me show you what I'm connected to. And I love that I'm working with them. I'm so proud of this. Yeah. And it's so magical, and I'm so welcomed, and I'm so thankful, and all of it, you know?
Yeah. That's the way.
I mean, and that's almost, for me, as a magician, because as you said it earlier, there's many times when you're at an event and you're not there for you, you're there for the event. And it's not that they're not meaningful. It's not that you're not doing magic. But you're not there to be the thing. It's somebody's birthday. Maybe you're there to do a thing for the birthday, and make that a magical moment in their life, to make the whatever appear out of whatever impossible location. But it's not like everybody's going to go, oh, do you remember Kent? It's Susie's birthday? It's never going to happen. It's going to be like, do you remember when we were at Susie's birthday and that guy Kent was there, or that magician was there that did that thing? They're not even going to remember your name, right?
Sure.
So there's also this knowledge within us as magicians because of that, or there should be this knowledge that it's not necessarily about us, and we're conduits to this beauty. We're conduits to this knowledge and conduits to this place that some people forget about as they get older. I mean, that's how I feel about it. I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, I feel. I guess yeah. There's a couple ways to look at it. Like if you're experiencing magic, which is I think what you're getting at. Maybe that's an optimistic way to look at it. I look at it in a bit of a cynical way, but I think they're both the same, just semantically a little bit. Just semantics is the difference.
Sure.
The idea that, like, to me, when you experience a really good impossibility, if you're experiencing it properly, it gives you a total sense of having no control over your environment, but in a safe space, where it's like, it's almost like a roller coaster, but you don't know what the next turn is going to be, hopefully. And worse than that, it's impossible. Whatever happens is impossible. And so the fact that you don't understanding over our environments is something, it's just this, it means survival. And when our environment is unpredictable, it means death. And like in our deep consciousness. I think that when you see a really good magic trick, it can give you that like little sense of like a mini death or a mini panic. And because you've lost control over your environment. And that to me explains the different types of reactions people have. But you've lost control of your environment in a safe way. And I think that's really exciting to people.
Yeah, no, it is right, because it allows them to. I think you're right. It allows them to peer into a world that they may be scared of, but are able to go there without ever having to do anything themselves, and yet get to see it and be like, oh my God, that's I can't believe. Oh wow, that was so good. Like that experience, right? Yeah. That going from that really scared moment to that very relieved and amazed moment, all in a beat. Like, it's like it happens, and I see it all the time. I'm sure you do. There was that lady that was at your performance that was absolutely beside herself, stuck in the corner of her chair like this, not wanting to touch you. Don't worry, lady. It's okay. We're just doing a thing here, It's like, oh,
yeah, that was funny.
I'm not sure. I don't know. Almost her full inflections and everything about her. It describes exactly what you're talking about. Being on a roller coaster, that you're unsure of what's coming next. You're unsure of where you're at. Yet you're just there, and there's other people there, and you're in this safe space. So it's not like anything crazy is going to happen. You know what I mean? So it's like, all of this other crazy stuff that's happening is so well and so much more able to be accepted, if you will. And so it's very cool. It's very cool. Yeah. Okay. So I know I'm over time with you. I know you could only be here for an hour and a half with me. I know you said an extra 10 minutes, but I know you have to go because you're on your way to your performance, I believe. Yes?
No, I'm on my way to a rehearsal for Seance, actually.
Oh, well, rehearsal, Seance, or an actual performance. It's heavy. Nonetheless, you have to do the work. So that's part of the work, and you have to go. So, Kent Axell, if you would not mind, before we end really quickly, where can people find you performance-wise? What are the dates, or times, and what are your websites and links? Please give us all that real quickly.
So everything is my name. So if you go to Instagram, it's Kent Axell. If you go to Facebook, it's Kent Axell. If you go on the internet, YouTube, or the website, YouTube, everything is just my name. I'm very easy to find.
So what you're saying is you're the only Kent Axell at all.
I might be. I'm very happy. Well, my father's name is Kent Axell, but I got to the internet first.
Well, then, yeah, you're the only one. And people would
That's
think
right.
that it's like a made-up name, which is even better. It's not, Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah.
So, and to find you at the two different shows, what are the two different dates, times that you're there?
Well, currently doing I'm performing. The seance is happening Thursday through Monday. So it's dark Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And then Ghost Stories happens on Fridays and Saturdays. Now, I perform the seance on Thursday. Then I do Ghost Stories Friday and Saturday. Then I do seance again Monday and Sunday. Or Sunday and Monday, really.
That's a schedule, kid. I know.
I'm a lucky boy.
I'm just completely amazed at your schedule that you're keeping. I mean, you're literally going. For those in the world who are watching this, to go from being, and I'm sure it's not much of a character change, but to go from one script to another script, and maybe different performances and performance pieces and in the middle of a day, and then go back the next day to go do the other show, and then that night have to go back and do the other show, and then on the next day go back to the beat of doing this show, and then doing the beat of that show again, and then that's a heavy load, man. Congratulations, first of all, and then second of all, congratulations that you're holding it, because as people know, and as you said at the beginning, to get a show is one thing. To keep a show is another thing. And Stacey has done, and she's supposed to be a guest here coming up soon. To have your own show is not easy. Weekly, let alone daily. Wink, wink. And getting a guest that comes on and is honest and free and willing to talk, because you can only imagine what this would be like if each guest that came on was like, I really enjoyed myself. It was pretty it would be tough to be able to do these, but thank the goodness of all that is, I have amazing guests like you. And I have great stories and awesome things. I want you back on to talk again, to tell me more stories, and we can get even deeper into magic. I would love to have you back on.
Yeah, let's do it. You just name the time.
Cool.
I mean, if your goal is to do a different person for a full year, then just have me on as a second show on a single day, and we'll answer some questions.
I think that just doing, even if I change the rules a little bit and just say I'm doing a podcast that's long form, that's 1 hour every day for 365, no matter what, with a guest, potentially 90% of the time, then I'd be still okay with the goal and say that I more than accomplished what I was looking to accomplish, which is,
there you go.
If you think about it, 365 1-hour episodes enough would be absolutely ridiculous amounts of hours and time.
For sure.
So just to do that alone is kind of impressive.
For sure.
But to have a guest and have stories and have people go places and share things and see things and get to learn things they haven't seen before, that's to me, so I've loved it.
Yeah, man, it's been fun.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here today, man. I really appreciate you.
You got it. Let's do it again soon, all right? I'm off to rehearsal. See you guys later.
See you later, man. Thank you, Ken.
Cheers. Thanks.
Bye. Oh, my God, dude. Another one. Another whoosh, in the bucket. That was, what was that? That was episode 36, right? and I'm sorry, J.M. William, that we didn't get back to your story of do you have a favorite ghost story? And I'm going to answer it for him because it's the ghost story that he tells in his show in Vegas. And unfortunately, you're going to have to go see that show. I just recently saw it, and literally, and I've seen amounts of mentalists in my life, okay? And I'll look straight into the camera when I do this one. Oh my God. The kid is so good, so clean. The use of the props, the use of the space, the understanding of the audience members and where to play and where to push, and I'm not just saying that. And if it was just for that show that I went to, I'm more than sure that it's like that for any show that anybody goes to that would ever see him perform. And I said that to him recently, that's what it was for me. It was that intense. It was that good. And I even told Alon New, who was one of my guests recently, I was like, dude, go see his show. And then he called me the day after. I was in jail, but he called me the day after, and then many times after, worried about where I was because I just disappeared. I did a magic act for magicians in Vegas, and nonetheless, he called me the day after and was like, "Oh my God, the kid's really good, dude." And I was like, "I know, right? Like, you don't have to like tell me. I know." And so, yeah, please, if you're in Vegas, go see these shows. Yeah, either one of them, and I'm sure the Seance at the Lost Spirits when he gets to do that. And it seems I didn't get any info, but it seems as though they're building the show with him, which means that maybe the room or something has cool, who knows what, to make that show, you know, really, really hit some marks and some notes. And that would be even, you know, I'm just happy for all these people that are doing so well. That's all I'm saying. And I want every single one of you to go back to all the other episodes, go to Kent's website, check out everything, go see these people, learn what they're doing. Because it's, man, I'm amazed that I even know them. And that I can call them friends, and that I can have them on a messenger and be like, boop, boop, you want to do my show? It's so cool. And I thank you guys for watching. So let's go. Please, if you would not mind, go out into the world, do something nice for somebody else. And if you can't, do something nice for yourself. It does start with you. Number 2, don't get caught up in all the crazy shit in this world, because if you do, oh my God, you end up really just in this weird resounding chamber of your own shit, and that's not good for you, me, or anybody else. And number 3, if you would not mind, please right now while you're watching, like, share, subscribe, send this out to somebody. I am going to pick up 5 sponsors that give me $50,000 a piece, and I will start to mention their names every single show that we do this. It's going to happen soon. I'm telling you that now. Please mark my words. I'm going to make this happen. I thank you for helping me make this happen. And it doesn't happen without me and you as a community growing together, building this thing step by step. And with that, my friends, I thank you all. I love you all. And I will see you all on the other side. Oh, I can't. It won't stop. Hold on.